I feel like to succeed with almost any species, you got to understand their spells, and then Amazons, that just gets to be a nightmare because of their versatility.
Well, that's also their biggest strength.
Yep.
The thing about Amazons, you have to have a strategy, but you also have to be willing to play turn by turn. Because in any given situation, you have access to four different schools of spells.
Well, three, because the minor has to match your major terrain.
And universal.
Oh, yep. That's right. Colorless. Yep. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It's really a lot.
It took me maybe a week to write my Frostwings article. It took me 3 months to figure out what I was going to do with the Amazons.
Yeah. I can see why there's a lot of nuance. I've been playing them in some of the live games that I've been playing in, and
Mhm.
they're versatile. But when I first started playing them, I was getting crushed. You gotta
Mhm.
you gotta pick up and use their assets, what they're good at, and build is really important. Kind of surprisingly important, I think, with Amazons.
Yeah. With Dracolum coming out, that's going to be nuts because the amount of item manipulation that you'll with the silver
Yeah,
because they're I mean it's just they tie in with so many different species. They also work incredibly well by themselves. I was wrong. No, they do have a four. The oracles do have a four cost magic because that one unit summoning dragon is insane with the oracle and the magic crown because
yeah,
that comes up. You've got a dragon of literally any color.
yep. And items are so important. They're so important
Yeah,
for Amazons.
because they don't save much.
No. Um,
Every Amazon has one save face. Very few have more. I think the Chimera and the Hydra have at least a 40% chance, I think. So four icons, including the ID icon. And everybody else has a 33% chance. So shield or saving items are paramount, at least 2 points worth.
and then that gives you like the agency to bring in other types of items. Like I found if I'm
Oh, yeah.
I my experience is that if I build towards a specific type of charge, so I can build towards a javelin charge or a kukri charge. And if I build
Mhm.
towards a javelin charge, it gives me that I have to bring in the shield items anyway. I might as well bring in a few heart seekers to get that impale
Yep.
in.
Right. Because Impale is insane. Not only that, the some of the artifacts, like the manlet, I think, is both maneuver and save based. Now that won't help your charges, but it helps you control the field because you don't want to capture an eighth base with Amazons unless you absolutely positively have to.
Yep, you
If
can't do your charges. I've made that mistake. We want to race for those eighth faces. It's so tempting when you jump into a match and you see a terrain at 6, two terrains at 6.
Mhm.
You're like, I've gotta do some work.
I can do a two-turn win, but wait, I have Kukri charge. Why? If your Firewalkers are a fighter, your Amazons are the Eldritch Knight. They're the ones who control through magic. They hit hard, and they can out melee or out. They can out melee, outrun, or out missile anybody, and they have tools to keep the fight where they want it. Firewalkers just run up and then attack with magic backing them up. Amazons are also the only species that can get all three of the big six spells, or the big three spells anyway. You're fighting in a Phaland because your opponent is blue and yellow, and
Uh,
then all you have to do is bring in a Highlands Minor, and then boom. So you've got this right here, say right here because this is where you want to control. You bring in this right here, and then you have a wall of fog to protect against missile attacks. You've got transmute to counter your opponent's maneuver, keeping your terrain where you want it, at the range you want it. And you have dancing lights to counter melee attacks, which in some armies can count as maneuvers.
Yep, yep.
Looking at dwarves,
That'll mess with the dwarves for sure.
they're really versatile. And then if you really want to go ham, you replace this with this, and then finger of death everything that you see.
Yep, if you're building for a mage army, that would be really effective.
Yep. Or you use cantrips to palsy the crap out of your opponent, should you have enough of them. Or you use green for the extra save. I mean, there. This is why I get a headache when I talk about Amazons, because there's so much that you can do with them. With Amazons, you make a strategy. Say, for instance, you want to go with a kukri charge to home. So you run your heavy, you run your cavalry, you have your mages off at your home army with, say, a Phalan's home terrain, because they have, I think, 3 magic faces. Yeah, so it goes up to 3, and then it goes into missile attack. So you start off with that. You have, say, you have 4 points of that. So you have 6 points of visionary, so that's 3 of them. You have 5 points of seers. So on average, you're looking at least a big spell a turn with him, and that is 11 points of your army.
Huh. That's interesting. Yeah, for sure. Because do you mind? I'm going to grab these guys and flip through them real
Go
quick.
ahead.
Let's grab an oracle and add her into the mix, and let's just flip through their faces real quick. So we got their IDs,
Well,
of course.
because
Then they've all got a magic face, all got a save face, all got a maneuver
yep.
face, and then another magic face,
So 50% chance.
and another magic face. Back to their
Yep.
IDs. So they're I think that's
Go ahead.
greater than 50. They only have 2 faces that are not magic. That's let's
That's
see. 4.
5%.
Yep. Yep. But then if you just go cavalry for the rest of your build, the problem is with the rest of the troops is they seem kind of jack of all trades.
Not necessarily. So we take a
Heavy?
warrior, and yeah, 2 health heavy. All right. So he starts off with his face. He goes over to uh, 2 face melee save. 2 face maneuver. On the 5, another 2. So he's pretty much got a 50% chance of contributing 2 melee results to a melee action. All right. And on 6, he's got a 3 melee. Now, the only thing that wasn't a save face was the save face.
Hmm.
That means he's got an 83% chance of contributing to a melee action on a charge. Same thing with your
Missile
archers.
units. Yep. That's what I
We
was
got
saying originally with mixing too many mages in there is like building to the type of unit. So you choose your charge type and you build your army around that, right? Because if you include both of these, then you're really splitting your results. So what you're suggesting is to maybe mix.
Why not? Remember, if you're going to do a charge-based army, you're 9 times out of 10 looking for maneuvers anyway. So you're going to want, say, there are some people who would go in and say that a unit is better than a piece of equipment. While that is well and good, units have certain things that equipment doesn't, meaning inopportune icons, like saving throws when you are looking for an attack roll, like say for the Warple Blade or the Heartseeker. It's 6 1 half dozen another. This is a great army to get into if you are wanting to go through and do the full set of rules. and they require it. They require it. You have to sacrifice minor terrain to activate the charge.
Yep, yep. Can I go back to building strategy for a moment?
Yeah,
And why
yeah. Go
why I
right ahead.
wouldn't split my results is I have had some amazing games if I take half of my army and I just include like an oracle,
Hmm.
and then say I build for a javelin charge. And so all my
Okay.
troops are missile units, and then
Okay.
I bring a Medusa because she's got the stone. And then I put in
Yeah.
the Heart Seekers and some shields. I have had like 22 missile rolls off of half of my army when I do that. And then the other half of my army, I'll just build cavalry. I'll set them up at the horde, and I'll probably give them a
Do
nightmare.
just that.
And then like second turn, I'll bring them back, preparing for that charge, and add them into either my missile or my melee heavy force, and I'll leave my mages in reserve, and then I'll
Mhm.
prepare for this huge charge. And then if anybody perishes, I'll just resurrect them from reserves or bring back my miners as I need to. It's a very
That
simple way to go about Amazons, and I feel if you have the items, it's very effective. And then with you can get just random kickers of items, and you're going to be able to add some items to your
right.
Amazons.
Right. You can try out every single item you get from a battle chest box with this species. That's the trick about humans. They take some getting used to, but they can do a heck of a lot.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about the big three spells that you were talking about. What are those big three spells, and why do you like them so much? We went over it
Well,
briefly earlier.
well, first off, the big three in a lot of people's minds is transmute rock to mud or six magic. You can subtract six maneuver results from the target's rolls until the beginning of the turn, and that's six stacks for each casting.
Yep.
What it does is A, it lets you keep a terrain where you want it, when you want it to stay. It lets you change a terrain when you want it to move up or down. It also it also does a nasty hack reduction to any type of maneuvers to other icon results conversion
Um,
after all the magic's done.
so are we talking about bogging down coral elves and lava elves possibly with their saves?
Not even that. Uh, you can literally stop another Amazon army in their own tracks with it.
Oh,
Any
they can't charge.
any well, they can charge, but it but it stems the results that they can use. So, for instance, once you cast Transmute to Mud on a
Oh, oh,
cavalry Amazon army, they are automatically down six maneuver results from that charge. It's such a versatile spell because it stops conversion effects, which are really hard to stop.
well, especially I don't know if your opponent's using coral elves, they're jack of all trades. They all have maneuvers. Those maneuvers are saves. Same with lava elves. They all have maneuvers a little bit, and
Yep.
they're all
Yep.
saves, which means that when they're at their favorite terrain, red or green, they're really hard to hit.
Yeah.
And transmute rock to
Exactly.
mud fuddles their abilities as well as slows down Amazon charges. It prevents Scalder's intangibility. It can
Yep.
slow down a stampede from Feral.
Yep.
Oh, geez, a lot of good
It
stuff.
converts most armies in their tracks, literally.
And so that's number one. What do you got for number two?
Number two is Dancing Lights. Red spell for six magic. Does the same thing, only with melee results. Now, obviously, the most prominent reason you would cast Dancing Lights is to stop a heavy missile or a heavy melee attack,
Oh, dwarves
right?
are undead or stop the dwarves from moving so well. Yeah.
Right. Also, you subtract six from the melee results, and Feral can't double those.
Oh, wow. With
because
their
it happened
Berserker
during
Rage,
the
is
map.
that?
Wilding.
Oh, yep, that's what that is. Yep.
But yeah, dwarves can't dig underneath you.
Yep.
Uh, Heavy hitting, like hard hitting armies. Like uh, I'm not sure if you remember the Frostwings medium melee units, or not me. Well, they're melee units.
Yeah.
The two can actually has a four melee phase. So anything that does a lot of hits, anything that can convert melee damage or melee icons to something else, it stops that in its tracks. And the last one, because missile is so powerful in this game, is Wall of Fog, which subtracts 6 from the missile results of that army. And of course, it stacks as well.
Who would we use Wall of Fog on? Probably Coral Elves? Maybe some Frostwing
Every army
Missile
in the game,
Army?
every army in the game.
Oh,
Because think
Scalders.
of
Uh,
it, shuts down
Stalkers.
per bullet.
Oh, Lava Elves. That's the big one for Wall of Fog. You want to stop those cursed bullets at a terrain you're at, because they'll turn it down to
Yep,
5 or 4,
yep.
and they will missile you, and you will lose units every turn.
And Frostwings.
Yep.
And yeah, like I said, every army in the game fears Wall of Fog. Because have you ever seen a dwarven missile army? They're not played often, but when they are scary. Those three really hit the gotcha mechanics, as it were. You know,
Yep.
and I say gotcha because it can catch people off guard. A firewalker attacks with in red terrain, and all of a sudden you have 20 some odd attacks coming at you from say 11 units because a phoenix or a couple of phoenixes, and then all of a sudden because the phoenix rolls saves, you've got 20 some odd hits coming at you. What? Dancing lights negates most of that.
They
So
can't do the melee. The saves will still go
you can do the
through,
melee,
but
but
not the melee results. You'll be reducing their normals.
right, and that's why Ash Storm is so good for those species that can convert, like say Amazons with their charge.
All army rolls, so it's slightly better than a palsy in that palsy is non-maneuver rolls.
Right, with palsy, Amazons have their charge, and of course, with you having the chance to get uh, Gift of Espa with every charge that you roll because you packed Oracle in your squad. Which, by the way, thing about the Oracle, her cantrip, yeah, only has 3. She is one of 2 large units in the game that does not have a 4 cantrip. The other one is the Ashbringer.
Yep, the firewalkers, heavy melee, yeah, or magic, excuse me. Yep.
But the reason being is they don't need 4. They only need 3 because of Gift of Espa.
Yeah, Gift of Esfa. Um, what an important spell for Amazons in general. I was
Yep.
just looking. Also, Esfa's gift and even rally, because you can do rally from reserves.
Yep.
They're both reserve
And you just move.
spells. And well,
Yep.
if you look at the wording of rally, it's 3 units. They could be 3 large units. It's better than path.
Yep. Like I said, they get half on steroids.
Yep.
And in all honesty, if you want to retreat all your mages to your reserve, that's a good strat. There really isn't a bad strategy as long as you can make it work. You can come up with the craziest ideas. For instance, my Frostwing army that did not want to move. You remember, you played that one.
Mm-hmm.
With Amazons, you can set up the same way, or you can go all over the place with them. But the trick with Amazons, if you're running a missile army, is to get control, not nade face, but control the frontier. So you can literally hit any army you need to.
Yeah, and they're so modular. I think personally, Amazons for me kind of showcase what Dragon Dice is about. Like, there's a huge replay value to the game because every time you roll out those terrains, you get a different game. Every time you make a horde
Uh-huh.
roll to see what the terrains are, you've started a completely different game than you've ever played before, more than likely. Even if the armies were built the same, you're going to get a different result because of the
Yep.
starting terrain situation. And then when you're playing Amazons, they're kind of begging you to bring items because they can use items of any color. They have no color
It doesn't matter
requirements.
what color it is.
And then they require to be used effectively that you bring in your minor terrains.
Yep.
And
Now, something that needs to be stated: a magic item will only like a magic class item that produces magic results will only produce results for that item's color unless it is a magic crown rolling a tune.
a tune. Yep.
Any unit that gets a tune wants a tune
Yes.
because that changes your entire spell list for that one roll. Because then you have access to any color possible for 3 results. During a magic action, the tune generates X magic results of any color. A tune may also count the normal non-ID, non-SAI magic results of one unit in the matching army as the same color. So that changes things incredibly. A tune is an amazing SAI.
So if if I had brought a magi crown, what color would you suggest?
That's a difficult question.
Indeed, I will. I
But
kind of guessed
I will counter your question with another question. What is your strategy?
exactly.
See, I've come to the conclusion that with Amazons, you make a strategy for you, and then you play turn by turn, ready to go to plan B, C, M, cards and dice, and M. Uh, if you've seen leverage, you'll get it. I mean, you have contingency on contingency on contingency, and you look at it like a strategist because that's what they are. But the color is going to depend on what spells you want to rely on because that's what it's going to generate for the rest of the game, unless you roll a tune. At which point, if you roll a tune, you should probably be bringing in a dragon, which hybrid dragons, the free hybrid dragons for Amazons, would be amazing because you can use Ivory Magic to summon in free hybrid. There's a lot of stuff you can do. It's just recognizing the situations that you have and using them. And with any species in Dragon Dice, you're going to lose more before you start winning. That's just the fact of the game.
So,
But
shall we flip over to the other side in this other army here, and maybe you could run us through setting up a charge?
sure, we're going to go with, say, a forest so we can possibly get double saves on IDs. So that gets rolled. We're going to target our frontier army over here with a missile charge or a javelin charge. So,
But we can't this turn because we just brought in that minor terrain. So we've got to wait till next turn. We've got to
my bad.
survive that
Right.
condition.
So these guys roll, and we are looking at. All right, so that goes bye bye. We don't need that right now.
But the
And I
stone
put
will
it.
go through.
Stone does go through. We have 5 saves. We're looking at looks like 4, 7 damage. So that's 7. And of course, depending on whether or not you're playing 4 elves, they might get a counterattack.
Yep.
But what we want is the next round.
With those saves, I wouldn't be too worried about it. We've got pretty decent saves there. 5 isn't bad for that army.
Right. Not bad at all.
And then so they'll have their second turn. Then we'll come back to our second turn, getting ready to do the charge. Right?
You skip your maneuver and bury the miner.
What if the terrain is say on a 2 or a 1? Oh, and
On a 1, you're still going to have to maneuver.
right, because even if you rolled this and it was a missile and that's what you wanted, you have to bury it first, right? So that missile
Right.
doesn't help you. You have to make sure that major terrain is up at the face you're trying to charge for.
Yes. And again, this is where transmute comes into play. Because you stop your opponent or you hinder your opponent from keeping you from your charge. And a lot of people are going to get upset about having to bury a miner to get a species effect. But think about it like this. You're using that miner to get to a strategic advantage point, right?
Yep.
Well, that strategic advantage point is also granting you cover, right? When you're charging, you don't worry about cover.
Yep.
So when that happens, we get this. It goes to the buried unit area. We shift click there. Roll them.
Oh, wow.
And we have not a bad charge, if I say so myself.
No, those
All right, so
tramples
go
will
ahead and
convert, correct?
tramples do convert. 2 regulars and an ID, and then we have 7 tramples.
So we have 9
So right off the bat,
plus 7 is 16.
yep, off of 5 units.
It's going to be hard for any army to deal with 16 missiles incoming.
And that's what, 18 health worth of units? Yeah, about 18 health worth.
I gotcha, and especially if you've done another magic action at another terrain and reduced your opponent's ability to convert and get saves off of maneuvers or something like that.
Right. Or you could do the opposite. Like I said, fiery weapons.
It just bolster
More
those
magic.
results until they can't possibly save enough.
Right. You make them fight in the shade by filling this guy with arrows. Javelins in this case.
Yep. I've had that result happen quite a few times, and it is devastating to an opponent when they have to take that much damage. It gets to
Oh,
be
yeah.
really hard to recover, even if you've got a mage army, when you lose 12 points of units in a turn. You've
Yep.
got to, that's 36 magic you've got to use to recover that.
Yep. And one of the things I suggest is not putting your Amazons in or not putting your cavalry in your horde army. I suggest putting them in the frontier.
Why is that?
Well, think about it like this. If you are going to use, say, cavalry, if you're going to go cavalry heavy, you are in a prime setup for a cavalry charge based everywhere. I say that because you run hill. Yeah. So we'll use this. We'll just go ahead and use this. Right. Boom. This same setup. you get to say a 4 here. I'm thinking about this the wrong way. Because you want the melee option here. You also have, would that be better as a coastline? That would be better as a coastline. Where's the coastline? Coastline over here. All right. You've got the missiles right here for the coastline. You've got the melee chance right here for the village. The village has 3 out of 8 chance to get
Melee.
melee result.
Yep. Yep. It's got 2 melee icons and then it's ID. Yep.
Yep. This is the Amazons at their best. This is where I would suggest, say, taking out the Herald here and putting in a Warlord. Why?
Because you can have all of the different, except for maybe the light melee, but you can have all then the different 3 health and huge SAI based army, but you're still going to produce massive results of whatever.
Right. 50% chance to contribute on the cavalry. 50% chance to contribute on and this is before the charge, right? So if you roll a melee result, you can directly attack across. If you need to roll a missile result, you can directly attack across. If they turtle up on you, that is when you let them get it to melee range. You let them do it. You ditch your terrain and then do a melee charge. With this specific style army, you're looking at... Oh, look. You rolled cantrip.
Do those tramples double in this situation? I'm going to have to look up trample real quick. Yep.
It would.
And.
It says and. Yeah.
Yeah.
So looking at fiery wings, 6 trample.
Yeah, saves and maneuvers. So that's 4 plus 4 from your regular maneuver, and then 6, and then 9 or 6 regular results. It looks like, and you get one of your minor terrains.
Yep.
Back out of the BUA.
Right.
All in one go. And you're doing massive damage. So what is that total? Let's see.
Is 8 maneuver, 11 maneuver. Let's see, that's 3 melee, 6 melee, 9 melee. That's 20 damage.
Yep. 20.
And you got your Phalan back. Minor.
And that's why you don't want to have an 8th phase, because you want to have the options, you want to have your minor in. You want to be right on that line between missile and melee probably most of the time, I would think.
Yep. So you have the ultimate ability to attack at any given point, anywhere.
And
the Amazon...
You're asking your opponent to come up here and challenge you when you do that.
And then your opponent goes back into the reserve. Guess what they can't do from reserve?
Affect your army with spells. Yep.
No, just offensive spells in general. There are no offensive spells. You can't Hailstorm from reserve.
Yep.
You can't Lightning Strike from reserve. You can Palsy, but what's it going to do? And then you move one guy over here, and then they do another round of magic. They can't really affect your army, and then you move them over here.
And now while you were doing that, you probably brought in another minor just to get your potential in, right?
Right.
To protect that unit and missile if they moved up there.
Well, I mean, if nobody's at this point, you just shift it back to missile.
Yep.
So take it back to 5.
Bury that minor, and you can protect that one unit pretty well.
You don't have to bury the minor. You're at missile range. This is a missile-based army with one guy with a couple of hybrid units in it. I mean, Amazons, they can do so much, but you get so bogged down in what they can do You have to remember what you need to do.
And the more I play, the more I talk about it, where there's this effect when you build an army with, say, a lot of counters or a lot of volleys, where it's hard to quantify how much you change your opponent's behavior because they know what kind of damage they're in for. And when you
Right.
do that, that's part of the strategy is changing your opponent's behavior by building your force and putting your units in a specific spot. And it's hard to quantify how much you change the game when you're doing that. There's no way to reassure yourself that you're actually being effective with that. You just have to watch your opponent and see.
Right. And now you're thinking like an Amazon
Yep.
because a minor terrain on an Amazon and on a Amazon controlled frontier is a scary, scary prospect, especially with cavalry and oracle. You've got maybe one turn to affect them, and then you're on the back foot because you used your turn to move in striking range.
Yep. Nope. That's pretty great. Geez, I love these Amazons. They're fun, but they definitely need a little bolstering from saves from time to time, unless you're building with units that can save a lot. Like, who was that? The Chimera that you had out.
Yes. And that's also where Dragon King come in. Yes, we are going to use everything.
Absolutely, especially if you bring the
Because,
Dragonkin that match a common theme
yep,
within your terrain colors. If you have all your terrain colors have at least a partial common theme, then you can build 1 and 2 point Dragonkin and have a variety of them of different colors and bring them in with just 3 magic. When you have that 3 magic, you don't know what to do with, but you're like, I want saves. Those Dragonkin can be more effective save wise than Watery Double or Stone Skin because they don't go away at the end of the turn or at the beginning of the turn.
exactly. And again, you build your terrain based off your primary strategy. You bring minor terrains to augment that strategy. Amazons are great at, oh, Lord, they're great at movement, they're great at magic, they're great at everything. It's, again, it's all how they get used.
As always, keep rolling to victory.